Welcome back to my channel. My name is Kirk Barbera, and I am the editor of Troubadour magazine, or troubadourmag.com. And today I'm going to try my first reaction to a country song. And this was a recommendation from a friend. He said to try George Strait. I grew up in California, but I moved to San Antonio when I was 16. I never really tried to embrace cowboy culture, country music, or anything like that. I probably should have tried country a long time ago because I love stories, and I know stories are a big part of country. I also love Westerns. I've watched a lot of classic Western movies, primarily pre-1973, so 39 to 73. So let's see what happens. And this is my first time listening to Troubadour, and I picked Troubadour for obvious reasons. My magazine's called Troubadour Magazine. I love the image of a troubadour and, you know, what a troubadour represents. I think that represents the enjoyment of storytelling and, of course, as well of what I would consider romanticism. Okay, so let us listen to this.
Still feel 25.
It's 50s.
Most of the time, I still raise a little cane with the boys.
Got a nice voice.
Honky tonks and pretty women. Lord, I'm still right there with them, singing above the crowd and the noise. Sometimes I feel like Jesse James, still trying to make a name, knowing nothing's gonna change what I am.
All right. I like that. So far, I'm really enjoying it. I'm liking the imagery, and it's an interesting story of an aged troubadour. So he's still part troubadour. He's part the romanticizing of his past and the enjoyment. But he says, I'm 25. I feel 25 most of the time, because he's, double the age of a 25-year-old at this point. It looks like he's in his 50s. So that's it's an interesting feeling of like living that rough and tumble life, the effect that it has on you. So it's an interesting story already. Part of him, it looks like, just wants to hang out by his wall, on his ranch, which it looks gorgeous. So I don't really blame him.
I was a young troubadour.
There it is.
When I wrote in on a song, and I'll be an old troubadour.
There it is.
When I'm gone.
Oh, okay. So after he's dead, he's gonna be a troubadour? I guess that's true. He's got all these songs. He's there forever.
Well, the truth about a mirror is that a damned old mirror don't really tell the whole truth. It don't show what's deep inside or read between the lines, and it's really no reflection of my youth.
So that's an interesting. I love analogies, and so he's having an analogy, in literature. And so there's this analogy of the mirror that you look into that just reflects what is right now, but it doesn't give the shape of your entire life, which is why I tell people to read literature. It's the only place. Read novels, big books, the Iliad, read these things. It's the only place you could see the shape of a life in front of your eyes in just a matter of hours. Yes, hours. Sometimes it may be 20, 30, 40 hours of reading, if it's a really big tome, but still you could see the scope of a life, which you can't, but even in self-reflection, even in looking in the mirror, you can't read between the lines, and there's a lot that you're going to miss. So, go George. Maybe he's reading some literature as well.
Sometimes I feel like Jesse James, still trying to make a name, knowing nothing's gonna change what I am. I was a young troubadour when I wrote in on a song. was a young troubadour when I rode in on a song, and I'll be an old troubadour when I'm gone. I'll be an old troubadour when I'm gone.
All right. Well, hopefully you don't go anywhere soon, anytime soon. I really enjoyed that. It is, I've been studying knights and knights in shining armor, and I'm going to talk about this as I go through country music, assuming you guys watch this because it's actually not blocked. But I'm interested in this because as I study the culture of knights in the 12th, 13th, 14th, and 14th centuries and medieval times, and the literature that was written to those men, it was really interesting to see that there's lots of parallels between cowboys and cowboy culture, because the knights of this era, of medieval era, generally were unlanded sons of wealthy lords and barons and wealthy men of that era. And so, but it was second, third, fourth, fifth sons. It wasn't firstborn sons, because the firstborn son had the obligation to take care of the estate, and the estate went to him. But the other sons, that didn't happen for them. And so a lot of times they chose not to marry and do things like that, but they chose to go in these roving bands of men with armor and who had the money for armor and swords. And sometimes they would fight wars. Sometimes they would fight battles. Sometimes they would just pillage a little bit. They just go out and just take stuff. And they had these big tournaments that they would have together, and they could get rowdy and they could be bad a lot of times. They could do a lot of bad damage at this time. And one of the reasons, the courtly tales popped up during this time, they were aimed heavily at these men because they wanted to show, the writers wanted to show them adventure and romanticism, but they also wanted to give them values and morals and say, hey, you have all this energy to do all this damage. Do it toward, the woman who, or do it toward helping the woman who is in distress, the lady in distress. Help the villagers who are too weak to fight the marauders off. Go fight their battles for them. Go help the needy. Use that energy for good is what that was happening at the time. This actually, you see this in cowboy movies or Westerns, I should say, where you'll have often a man from the road. He's a cattle person, on a cattle run, but he's with his men, he's with the boys, he's with his brothers, and he's living that rough and tumble country, life out in the middle of nowhere in uncivilized territory, sometimes with Indians. And he comes into town, and the town needs help, and he has to decide whether he's going to help or not. And a lot of times that's the moral thing that the movie's trying to tell you, is that he should help, at least from 39 to 73. It changes quite a bit in that era, at the end of that era. But he, like with Dodge City, Shane, just a lot of movies at that era. I can't think of all of them off the top of my head, but that's basically a stereotype, kind of the genre, the stereotype of what happens over in cowboys. And the movies are, in a sense, trying to give a kind of, here's what the moral, that's one thing. Movies in this era, in the 30s, they're written about, or they're created about the 19th century. But, it's the idea, though, is the moralizing factor of these men and trying to get them to do good things. So anyway, studying knights is something new for me, studying the literature of knights, and its relationship to cowboys. And of course the Western is part of that, but cowboys, were mostly in the 19th century when they were, prominent, and there were cowboys, of course, all the way to this day, but not quite the same as they were when they were on the frontier. So, although some people may disagree with that, and, please let me know. Okay. So I enjoyed that. That was a fun song. I love the Troubadour. Go George Strait, be a troubadour till the day you die. Go for it. And even apparently he will be a troubadour even after he dies. So go for it, man. All right. I hope you enjoyed that, and tell me in the comments what else I should be, what other country songs I should be reacting to.